Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'm extremely sorry for the interruption. चले हम अपने टॉपिक पे वापस आते हैं. That was basically the scheme of connection. So I already said that we have basically four types of schemes of connection. The one is known as the radial distribution system. The other is the parallel distribution system. The third is the ring main, and the fourth is the interconnected. So you can see in this figure that this is basically a, you can say, this is basically a radial system. Now let me first explain that what is a radial system basically. In a radial system there is a single supply that I am drawing here, and from this single supply each load is being fed. If, for example, if we have the load, this is L1, for example, if this is L1 and this is L2, L2, and this is a supply V. So you see all the loads are being fed from a single supply that is V. So for example, if we have any fault on this supply or we have fault over here in these connections, so there will be a complete blackout on this whole load. This is L1 and that is L2. So this is basically the radial system. So now if I explain you this radial system in terms of the radial distribution system, so you see this is basically a radial distribution system. This figure is being shown. This is here. Now this is a substation, means the transmission substation. If I mark, this is T S S, the transmission substation, where the transmission line basically terminates. From this transmission substation, we have a feeder. You see, this is a feeder. This line is basically a feeder. I'm marking it with another line, a red line. So this is basically a feeder. And from this feeder, we have then this distribution transformer. If I call this distribution transformer, or we can say that this is the distribution, let me call this transformer 1, distribution transformer 1, means the transformer that is outside our homes, located at our homes, P1. This is transformer P2, or we can say this is a distribution substation, and this is the transformer P3. So you see this feeder is basically giving the supply to all these loads. This is load 1, if I say L1, if I say this is the load 2, L2, and if I say this is the load 3. And this feeder is basically acting as a supply. So for example, if there is any fault on this feeder, if there is any fault on this feeder, or this feeder if fails, so the whole load, this L1, L2, and L3, all of these loads will fail. Similarly, this radial distribution system, I can explain it like this as well. That this is basically the radial distribution system. This is also, I'm giving you the example of a radial distribution system. For example, if I draw it over here, so this is also the example of a radial distribution system. For example, if I have this substation, the substation means that this is the transmission substation. Let me mark this as TSS. And for example, if this is feeder 1, if this is F1, now this is F2, and this is F3. And for example, if we have connection from this F1 to a transformer T1, that is basically the distribution substation, and then we have distributor T1, and then from distributor T1 we have consumer C1, and then consumer C2. Similarly, we have another distribution substation, or you can say a transformer located outside our homes. Let me call this as P2, and from this then we will have the distributor D2, and from the distributor D2 we will have the consumers that are C3 and let us call it C4. And similarly, we will have the similar types of connections from S2 and as well as from F2 and from F3. So for example, if there is any fault on this feeder, let me call this as FA. If there is any fault on this feeder F1, so there will be a complete blackout at the load C1, C2, C3, and C4. So this is basically a radial distribution system, and this is the disadvantage of radial distribution system, that if we have fault on a feeder, on a supply, so then there will be a complete blackout at the load. Now to counter this drawback of the radial distribution system, that since there is only a single feeder and we are taking the connection from that single feeder, so if that single feeder fails, so all of the load will fail. So now to tackle this problem, we have another type of distribution system that is known as a parallel feeder distribution system. Now let me explain this parallel feeder distribution system. Now you see this is basically the transmission substation. And from the transmission substation, you can see you have two parallel feeders. This is feeder 1 and this is feeder 2. And this load is then connected to both of these feeders. So for example, if the feeder 1, now for example, if I have fault on the feeder 1, now let me mark this as FA. So if we have a fault on the feeder 1, so then we can give the supply to this load through feeder 2. So the drawback that was in the radial distribution system, so that drawback is covered, or we can say that it's in combat, or we can say that it is addressed here at the parallel feeder distribution system. But there is also a drawback with the parallel feeder distribution system. The drawback is that what if these both of these feeders fail, this feeder 1 and feeder 2, that is failed. So then again we will have a blackout in this load. Now to counter this problem, so we have another type of distribution system, and their distribution system is known as ring main distribution system. तो आप देख सकते हैं इस फिगर में, ये बेसिकली आपके पास जो है ना, ये फिगर है, तो ये आपके पास बेसिकली शो कर रहा है द रिंग में डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सिस्टम। इसमें आप देख सकते हैं कि ये फीडर जो है ना बेसिकली एक रिंग बना रहा है। ये आपके पास एक सबस्टेशन है और एक सबस्टेशन से फिर आपके पास यानी फीडर्स जो हैं जो ओरिजिनेट हो रहे हैं। तो लेट मी कॉल दिस फीडर 1, दिस इज द फीडर 1, और नाउ लेट मी कॉल दिस एज फीडर 2, this is feeder 2, or this is feeder 3, and this is feeder 4. So you see these feeders are making a ring. These feeders आप देख सकते हैं, ये feeders F1, 2, F3 and 4, ये तो इधर यानी 4 feeders दिखाई दे रहे हैं, लेकिन बेसिकली आपके पास एक ही feeder है जो कनेक्टेड है इन द फॉर्म ऑफ ए रिंग. So this F1, F2, F3 and F4, they represent a single feeder that is connected in the form of a ring. And now the load is connected at the end, या हम कह सकते हैं कि each load is fed by two feeders. यानी मैं कह सकता हूँ कि if this is load 1, so this load 1 L1, so this L1 is being fed by two feeders. Now if I call this as L1, तो मैं लिख सकता हूँ कि this L1 is being fed by two feeders, that is feeder 1 and feeder 4. Similarly, if this is L2, so this L2 is being fed by F4 and F3. Similarly, if I call this L3, so this L3 is being fed by F2 and F3. Now what if अगर आपके पास यानी फीडर जो है तो वो फेल कर जाए, if this F1 fails, so in this case you can supply the power to this L1 through F2, F3, F4 and F4. Now similarly, if F2 fails, so you can supply the power to this L3 via F1, F4, and F3. So this is basically the ring main distribution system. In this system, if one of the feeder fails, you can supply the load to you can supply the load with the other alternative feeders as well. आप देख सकते हैं कि the difference between the ring main and similarly the difference between the parallel feeders is कि parallel feeders के end पे आपके पास एक ही लोड जो है तो वो कनेक्ट होता है यानी एक लोड यानी एट द एंड आपके पास यानी दो फीडर्स जो है तो नंबर ऑफ पैरेलल लोड्स को भी यानी फेड कर सकते हैं लेकिन इस रिंग मैन में आप देख सकते हैं कि इसमें आप नंबर ऑफ लोड्स बेसिकली क्या करें आप फेड करें तो इसमें अगर एक फीडर आपके पास फेल होता है तो यू कैन फीड द लोड विया द अदर alternative feeders. So this was basically the concept of ring main. Now there is a problem with the ring main ring main distribution feeder as well. The problem is if let me remove this, so I will identify the problem. The problem is that what if this substation fails, so what will happen? If the substation fails, so definitely we will have a blackout at L1. Similarly, we will have a blackout at L2, and similarly, we will have a blackout at L3. Now, to counter this blackout, we use the interconnected feeder distribution system. Now, the interconnected feeder distribution system is that if we use two substations working in parallel to each other, if we connect, if for example, if this is substation 1, for example, if this is, for example, if this is substation 1, so if I connect another substation 2 in parallel with substation 1, so in case if S1 fails, so then the load will be supplied by the substation S2. So now this arrangement is basically now called as the interconnected distribution, interconnected, or let me call this as interconnected feeder distribution system. So these are the all four types of distribution systems in which we can distribute our power. So now nowadays in modern power system, the interconnected distribution system is basically used to feed the load. And you know what are the advantages of interconnected feeder distribution system is that in this case all the drawbacks that were there in the ring main, that were there in the parallel feeder, that were there in the radio system, they are all covered here in the interconnected feeder distribution system. Although the interconnected feeder distribution system is complex system as compared to the other systems, but this is quite reliable and it has a quite continuous supply of power. So this is the end of the today's lecture. उम्मीद करता हूँ आप सब खैर खैरियत से होंगे इंशाल्लाह अगले लेक्चर में फिर मुलाकात होगी और आपका जो अगला लेक्चर होगा तो that will be your last lecture of your course and the end of this chapter. तो इंशाल्लाह अपना ख्याल रखिएगा दुआ में याद रखें अस्सलाम वालेकुम।